my new meetings at the times I would always get her.
Tuesday, December 21st, 2021, and our city attorney, Mike Flaherty, is on Zoom with us. So he will participate when needed, I guess. So do a call the order.
Dana
Jim?
Bergner. Lori Novak.
Ryland Nyquist.
Jim Richards.
So the first thing on our agenda is a couple of public hearings. First one is in regards to our assessment taxes for unpaid water bills. So with that, for anybody that would like to speak regarding the public hearing on those unpaid water bills, just please come to the podium and state your name and address. Second call, for anybody that would like to speak. And third and final call, for the assessments of property taxes for unpaid water bills. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 6:31. Second public hearing is regarding our truth and taxation. And for the upcoming year, we have a total levy of $920,971, which is about a 1.5% increase over 2021. So if there's anybody that would like to speak to the tax levy, please step up to the podium and sign the note there. Second, and final call for the public hearing for the tax levy. Third and final call for the truth and taxation regarding our collectible in 2022. Seeing none, 6:32. Is our approval of the agenda. We'd like to make one pull ahead with your approval to pull ahead the personal agenda item L, Personnel Community Center, the appointing of a new council member. I'd like to pull that ahead after planning and zoning E and before F, ordinances and resolutions.
And are you pulling the entire
Oh, no,
personnel or just?
just number one, point number one. Yes.
Is it after planning and zoning you said?
Yes. And before F, ordinance and resolutions. We'll take care of that.
Okay.
So I make that motion with that amendment.
Second.
Comments or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, it's approved. Next item is our public forum. This is a 3-minute time limit per person. The city council welcomes and encourages participation from community members. Please keep in mind that your comments must be pertinent to city business and must adhere to data privacy rules. No employees' names may be used. Please do not expect action from the council this evening regarding your concerns. We're also requesting that your comments be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers will be recognized only once. At this time, we ask that anyone who'd like to address the city council to please step up to the podium, state your name and address, and fill out the form provided. And I do have a form here from Trish Shields. Jan?
Just a question, last night, to speak for any of the candidates that are up. Is
Yes.
that come at a later time then?
No, that's a great time to do it. Yep.
At the time, first of all, I'd just like to. The road wasn't plowed this last snowstorm until Monday morning. I think it's now being done with Nellis. I've been before this council at least the 7 years, I've talked about the road not being plowed. In fact, all the snow would plow right in front of my roadway off the road. I called you, Mayor, we didn't answer the phone. I did call Jim. Jim come up and looked at it. So you could see my frustration. And I drove around Orinoco and I saw the rest of the streets plowed. I pay my taxes on time. I do everything else, and I continue to come back for the council. And I feel that I'm being treated, to me, it's with malice now. Having said that, I would like to talk a little bit about what you've got. The 3 nominees is important. I property owner in this town. I'd come last night to listen to the 3 people. They're all eligible according to your thing. What I have some concerns that one of the candidates said that he couldn't make the meetings, make a lot of the meetings as a requirement that you had asked. Also said that you require Gold Rush be on your plate to be there to serve on Gold Rush, and the individual said could make maybe a little bit, but not none. And I remember back in March when one of the candidates that was here last night was a candidate, and some allegations, unfounded allegations were made against that individual, and said he couldn't serve on Gold Rush and everything else, therefore he couldn't be a good candidate and couldn't be selected. So I find that kind of odd. The question last night, one of the council members asked, why now? 2 of the individuals said they come forward. One was a candidate that ran, one was a newcomer. The 3rd candidate didn't say that he was recruited again by the council, by a couple of members on the council. The last council member that resigned was also recruited by some members on the council. I wish they'd have been a little more clear on their statements when I asked that question, a little more transparent to say they were recruited, that they really weren't putting in, but they were recruited for it. Then come up the situation about travel. Everyone has their job and work, and that always comes first. But it appears to me, as he said last night, he said if there was another candidate that would put in that could be here all the time and do everything else, that those candidates should be picked over him. And I agree with that. And then it was brought up that maybe they could Skype if the person was out of town, that they could find a place and they could Skype. Well, you can't do that unless there's a pandemic. But we're not in a pandemic. So I can't call someone when they're out of town and say, hey, I got an issue, come look at it. And then whether we look at the video up here, they're not seeing here, they're not doing that, they miss meetings and stuff like that. So I don't want the council here tonight before you make your selection to be hypocrites. Because back in March, you said one individual couldn't serve because he couldn't serve on a committee, and that was never proven. But yet you got an individual that has wrote to you and specifically said he can't make the meetings, or some of the meetings, because of their work schedule, and he can't do that, and he can't attend the Gold Rush. And if there's a different candidate that could do that, and I would hope that that candidate tonight, before it's all said and done, would remove his name from the list and do the proper thing, because they already admitting they can't attend all the meetings, attend the meetings per your requirement. Thank you.
Go ahead, Trish.
Good evening, everybody. Good to see you all again. I am here to speak on behalf of Skylar because I served with him for 4 years and I think he deserves your consideration. I was not here last night. I'm not aware of a rule that says that you have to be here for each meeting in person. I know that previously meetings were held via Skype or another version. So I served with Skylar for 4 years. It was a great 4 years. The man is funny, he's honest, he's got a lot of great things going for him. He's straightforward. He's not gonna BS anybody. He's gonna tell it like it is. I never saw him act out of bias, which I know we all have that tendency. I never saw that with Skylar. I always saw him be a very good, honest person, and I always saw him do what he felt was right for the citizens and for the city itself. I thought that showed a great deal of integrity. He always participated in all the additional city activities. I don't know everything that's going on in his personal life, not my place to, but I do know that when he attended, he was eager to be there, happy to help, happy to teach others. And half the time he brought his family, which I thought was really awesome because he's also teaching the next generation of counselors. So I thought that was really cool. I never witnessed him throw tantrums or attitudes or do anything that seemed inappropriate and dishonored his position in this community. He always served with integrity, always. And I think that said a lot about him. Just like he never used this seat that he held to, what do I want to say, create a bias by speaking with others and doing things that, going around and talking and then coming back. And I just didn't see that kind of stuff. It was never used for personal gain in any way. Finally, I honestly think the guy is just an upstanding citizen. He comes with experience. You guys aren't going to have to train him. You're not going to have to send him off to school. He's going to be able, he's a quick learn and he's been keeping up with what's going on in the city. I think he's going to make a phenomenal candidate and hopefully a good choice for him. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you, Trish. You too.
Thank you, Trish. Does anybody else would like to speak at public forum?
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning to you.
Will Hannenberger, 210 2nd Street Northwest. I'd like to share with you why I support and highly recommend Skylar for the vacant seat on City Council. I also too previously served with Skylar for several years on City Council, the Orinoco's Outstanding Citizen Committee, and worked alongside him numerous years on downtown Orinoco Gold Rush days. The one word that describes Skylar best is his heart. Skylar has a huge heart. Skylar's given up many things when it comes to his dedication for others and to this city. On multiple occasions, I have personally seen him go out of his way to help others when needed, with no regard to his own time or personal responsibilities. Skylar is always willing to go above and beyond when it comes to the Orinoco community and its best needs. Skylar is without a doubt one of the fairest, most honest people I have ever met. Because of his previous council experience, he did and will always review all facts and details before making a tough decision on a particular vote. Even on issues that are potentially controversial or very passionate between citizens, you can count on Skylar to make the right decision that's best for our community. I can assure you that even with Tyler's time restraints that could possibly occur from time to time, this will not deter him from his duties that he takes very seriously. I have also dealt with this firsthand, and there was never a major issue. I would sit on council seat with him even if I received only a quarter of the time that he gives. Skylar gives back to his community through the food shelf and donates his time to the Dorothy Day House when time permits. There are many more examples of stories. I could go on and on, but in the interest of time, I think I've painted a detailed enough picture of how indispensable Skylar is. And I know he is the best candidate for this position. Thank you.
Second call for public hearing. And third and final call for public hearing.
What I'd like to do before public hearing is over, for transparency purposes, to have Jerry Lynn read the letters that came in, because I don't think people are aware of the letters that came in, just for transparency.
Sure. We were going to do that when we get to it. We can read them now too.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea now, because if someone wants to comment, then it's open for them yet, right?
This is really public. This is like public forum though. Is it
What do you want me
okay?
to do?
Is it okay to keep it open?
Well, let's, why don't we read those when we get back, because we'll be doing it here very relatively quickly.
But they should be able to comment on it.
Well,
Because they haven't seen it, right?
A public forum just allows one person to speak one time.
Right.
So if there's, if in a previous Jan, Skylar, or Bo, or Trish, they want to speak, but they've already spoken, so.
But what I'm saying is there could be others that, as a result of that, want to speak.
I guess we could, with the understanding that the people that have spoken cannot speak again. Knowing that, I
Okay,
can read them too if you want me to.
there you go. I have to type.
All right, thanks.
Well, you don't have to take
Here's an email from Kevin McDermott. He's our previous council member, mayor. Orinoco City Council, my name is Kevin McDermott, former mayor and city council member of Orinoco. This letter is in support of former city council member and my vice mayor of Orinoco, Skylar Brainstein, for the vacant city council position. While serving the citizens of Orinoco, Skylar brought many attributes to the position of city council member: excellent communication and interpersonnel skills, teamwork, dependable and strong work ethic, great personality and leadership skills. Along with these qualities, Skylar also completed council training through the League of Minnesota Cities and was also very involved with Gold Rush. In closing, just to know that Skylar has the best interest in the city of Orinoco and its citizens when making decisions for this beloved community. Sincerely, Kevin M. McDermott. Next item is from, this is on Friday, December the 10th. It was sent to council. This is from Skylar. Good morning, Ryland and Dana. Yesterday afternoon, Karen dropped off the application at the drop box at City Hall. As I've discussed with you previously, Ryland, and more recently, Dana, I'm not confident I can do as good a job as someone with a more routine work schedule. But I am willing to work my butt off for the city for everything I can attend due to my work schedule if so chosen. As my employment and work life has drastically changed since I previously served on the council and as vice mayor, I thought it'd be upfront what my schedule can be like. Feel free to share this with the rest of the council. I've been flying professionally for almost 22 years. I now fly for Southwest Airlines based out of Chicago. To get there, I normally end up leaving the day before my flying starts and drive to Minneapolis to catch a flight to Chicago. Many times I get home the same day I'm done flying, sometimes not. My flying days are normally 3 to 4 days a stretch, starting in Chicago, anywhere between Thursday and Saturday, and over in 3 or 4 days. Not complaining, but just trying to educate you. I love what I do. Trips sometimes get moved once I get my schedule, but many times not. Once in a while, I'm required to fly on scheduled days off, but that is normally rare. My typical schedule is bid monthly based on seniority. At my seniority, I work pretty much every weekend, and my off days are typically middle of the week, which makes family time and volunteering precious when I'm home. At my seniority, I can in months you wouldn't associate with wanting to go on vacation, meaning not summer. Due to the nature of my work and schedule, I can guarantee that I won't be able to be there in the entire Gold Rush event, but I would work every day that I'm off. I get done flying on December 20th in Chicago at 3:45 p.m. If I can catch the next flight, I can be in Minneapolis by 5:15 p.m. By the time I get to employee parking and get to Orinoco, it'd be likely closer to 6:45 to 7 p.m. If I miss that flight, it will be hours later for the next one. Either way, I could attend the interview by phone or virtually, depending on my location. As long as my schedule doesn't get changed, I would be home on the 21st. I haven't checked the entire 2022 calendar, but I just got off my tentative January schedule. Zach and Quinn have a concert, and Zach has a basketball game on January 18th. The timing of the concert wouldn't interfere with council, and I could leave the game early for council. I would defer to your attorney, but previously using state statute and guidance from the League of Minnesotas, I was approved previously to participate in meetings remotely, so long as the location was publicized with the meeting notice. A sign was present at the location, and any residents, if in that location, were permitted to attend. Obviously, If you have a better candidate with more routine schedule, that's whom you should go with. If you feel I'm the best candidate, despite my work schedule and coffee breath, I'll work hard again for Orinoco. Feel free to call, text, or email if you have questions. If I'm chosen to serve again, I would use my old email from previously serving on council, orinocosky@gmail.com. Many thanks in advance. Please stay safe with your weather today, and I hope you have a great weekend. All the best, Skylar. So. Here's another email from Skylar on Monday, December the 20th. Good evening. Thank you again for permitting the three of us to answer your questions tonight. As I mentioned, you have a great problem to resolve. Just because I previously served on the council, I don't feel I deserve to be chosen. In the last of my 6 years on council, I changed jobs to one similar to what I have now at the time, flying out of the East Coast. In that year, even with my schedule, I attended 58 meetings, both for council and various other city obligations, meeting with developers, personnel meetings, meeting with residents, other committees, and Gold Rush commitments, etc. That doesn't include multiple phone calls each day with city staff, no matter where in the country I was. When the last vacancy arose, I didn't consider it because I didn't think my family would be supportive. When this vacancy arose, I found out how supportive my wife and family truly are. That being said, if you want someone that says they can promise to be at every single meeting in person and be at all of Gold Rush, then I'm not your guy. If you want someone who won't ask tough questions, then I'm not your guy. If you want someone who doesn't have kids still in school and the commitments they may have, then I'm not your guy. If you want someone who won't show up prepared, then I'm not your guy. If you want someone who will consider all sides before making a decision, then I'm your guy. If you want someone who will care about and meet with residents outside of council when needed, then I'm your guy. If you want someone who isn't afraid of doing the tough work outside of council, including garbage duty at Gold Rush when I'm in town, then I'm your guy. If you want someone who cares enough about Orinoco to continue volunteering in multiple positions in Orinoco after my time on council, because I love our hidden gem of a city and because it's the right thing to do, then I'm your guy. I always have and continue to truly want what's best for Orinoco, even if you as council feel it is Carl or Jim. Thank you so much for the opportunity and your consideration of all three of us. All the best, Skylar. So, did this other one, was that another one that went out to council too?
Oh, no, that was the email from Mike about Zoom online declaring.
Oh,
We
the
talked about it.
statute?
Yeah, he sent that to us. So I didn't know if you wanted to mention that or I didn't. I just printed it for you.
Let's see. This is in reference to, and I believe Skylar made reference to it, there's a Minnesota State Statute 13D02. In regards to remote. So why don't I just read Mike's response here?
Mhm.
This is in reference to declaring electronic meetings. Gerald, I'm about to drive to Winona. I can send you a longer email about this later, but if no declaration under 13D.021 is made, a member may appear electronically under 13D.021 if any declaration has been declared by you or the mayor. However, members can also appear remotely under 13D.02 if the location where they appear form is listed in the meeting agenda and the location where they appear from is open to the public. There are other requirements in 13D.02 you can review also. So the 13D.02 is what Skylar made reference in his email of what he used in his previous role as a council member and flying remote. Okay. Having read those, is there anybody else that would like to speak in public forum? Seeing none, we'll close public forum at 6:55. And Sergeant, would you like to address the council?
Hello, my name's Jen Stammen. I'm filling in for Sergeant Chambers tonight. He asked me to stop by and wondering if you guys had any concerns that need to be brought to our attention.
Any council members have any concerns or comments?
Thank you.
Yes.
The last thing we did hear from the city council or from the city was snowmobile violations within the city limits with the last snow. We put out a department-wide email. We looked for violations, but the snow quickly disappeared. So hopefully we'll deal with that again next month. But we'll get the rest of December off at this point.
Means you're hoping for snow though.
What's that now?
You're hoping for snow.
We need to get some snow, just a little bit, all right, gets us through winter, so. I was one of the supervisors working last Wednesday during the windstorm that came through. Orinoco Fire Department was called out for a tree that was down in the city limits here, a car crashed into it. Thanks for them for coming out, we appreciate it, we don't have the ability to go and cut trees down and remove it, so they did a good job for your community.
Good, good.
So,
How long you been here in Orinoco or watching Orinoco on your shifts?
So
When did you start patrolling in your normal duty of Orinoco?
we just kind of rotate through Orinoco. I've been with the sheriff's office for 20 years or over 20
Okay.
years. So Orinoco's always been on the radar. So
You're familiar with the surroundings?
it's not my normal area that I'm kind of responsible for, but we all come up here and we deal with whatever we
Okay.
do. So. All right.
Thank
You
you.
guys take care. Have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Okay, Dan, Fire Department?
Good evening. Few things to talk about. So first thing was the runs. We didn't have any runs the previous month, so yeah, we did have one last week, which I'll talk about next month, but basically 3 down, so. Did we good. December is our annual meeting, so we do elections, and so the elections were the same as previous years, so we just thought we'd document, who was there. So I'm chief, Kane's my first assistant chief. Adam Schaefer, who's also our treasurer, is the second assistant chief. And then Pat was reelected as EOC. So pretty much same people, same positions as previous years. Donations, so we did get, so I didn't see your email till late. I'm trying not to work this week. So we did bring, Mr. Markeen did make a nice donation to both the fire department and first responders. So it's separate checks to both. I was gonna bring them tonight, I forgot to bring them. And then we also got a $250 gift from the Southeast Minnesota Harley Owners Group. So
How much is it?
$250. So it's kind of nice, kind of out of the blue. They have a rotating schedule of giving to different EMS organizations. So just kind of a nice thing that they do.
And what organization was that from?
Southeast Minnesota Harley Owners Group, or the HOG Group. HOG, yep. Yeah, when I first got my Harley, I was on the group and pretty active, and that was kind of before kids. But yeah, they usually do 250 or 500 and then they rotate various EMS organizations. They do a run, usually in the summer, where they pick 3-4 groups to go. So I think we were, a couple years ago, we were one of the stops on their run, and then the money that they make from, people paying $20 to ride, then they donate again, all of it to EMS. So it's a good group. Yeah, so both fire department and first responder from Mr. Keene, and then the Harley owners for the fire department. Yeah, the checks, I'll get to you.
So we should have a motion for sure. Do we need a resolution for documentation?
Last year we had one, yes.
Resolution?
Last year we did. So I'll look back on that.
So there's,
We can do a
I
motion.
know you do resolution for the large donations that we do from gambling.
Yep.
But I'm not sure if you do a resolution every time we get a small.
I think in the past, we just do the motion.
Yeah, the motion is fine.
I make a motion, we approve the donations from Mark Keen for $1,500 to both fire department.
1,500 to fire, 1,500 to first
Oh,
responders.
each, okay,
Yep.
thank you. And the $250 from the Southeast Minnesota Harley Riders.
Second.
Comments or discussion? Appreciate the donations,
Very nice, very
very
good.
nice. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, that's approved.
Then we got two things related to the fire relief. So again, as a quick reminder, we have the fire department and then we have the Relief Association. And the Relief Association, it was created for fire departments to have a kind of a nonprofit side of the department to really do recruitment and retention by being able to offer a pension. So, if you look at any small town volunteer fire department, they have a relief association that does a pension. So we get 2% money from the state each year that, we put into our pension. We have various investments that we use to manage, our funds. We do donations, like when we make a gold rush into that fund. And we then track it and see how we can, grow. So at our annual meeting, we review our investments, make decisions on what we want to do. And then part of that is we look at the amount. And so the state has a very fancy calculation that says, based on who you have on the department, how long they've been on the department, what their accrued liability is, what could be the maximum amount that you could have your pension amount to. So our pension is 20 years fully vested, 10 years partially vested. And so between 10 and 20, it's incrementally up. And so, again, the whole calculation, there's a spreadsheet that says, okay, the amount is, I think it was like 2,800 or something that, we could go up to. And, so what we want to do is we want to, we don't want to keep the amount stale. We're not trying to, we want to have, raise the money where we can, which, if we have a good year and we have money, we like to do it. So last year we went from 1,400 to 1,800. And so this year we went from 1,800 to 2,500. And so it's under the amount that the state says, so, there should be no implication. And again, we have a very young fire department, so we have a lot of people not even close to 10 years. So it's kind of the number is based on everybody retiring and getting their funds, but not everybody can get to 10 years to at least get partial vesting, and then you have to be at least, 50, I think, to even get any money. So it's, again, low risk. So, but since the fire relief is tied to the city, we have to, give you the explanation and have you approve. So we approve raising it from 1,800 to 2,500. So we request the same from you.
I make a motion, we approve the fire relief pension plan increase from 1,800 to 2,500.
Second.
Comments? That change in the bylaws is on page 8.
Yep. So then that's the next thing. I'll get to it.
Oh, sorry. So, all those in favor of the increasing it to 2,500 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's approved.
So then when we change the amount, we change our amount that's in our bylaws. So the three places that referenced 1,800, I changed to 2,500 and sent it to you. So we would like you to approve the bylaws. That's all that was changed in that, was just the amount from 18 to 25.
I make a motion, we approve the updated bylaws reflecting the $2,500 increase.
Second.
Jim? Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Hopefully keep on raising money, keep on raising that up. There's always that fear you make it too high. People will think, okay, they get that 10 years, they'll retire. So we don't want to make it too high to get them excited to leave, but at the same time, it's there for recruitment and retention. So doing a good job. The other one was just kind of an interesting, so Kane and I were having a discussion. Sounds like he's had a couple of conversations with you. So we were just kind of curious for the future. So this is not anything imminent. So we're just kind of, at the end of the year, we know we have a budget, from the fire department standpoint, we have different categories. And so we could look and see, okay, if I look at all of fire department, we probably have money that we did not use in our budget, which is good. I mean, we're not trying to spend money to spend money. And then if we look at like the first responders, they had some free money. And then if we look, of course, at all city budgets, there's probably some money there. So we're just kind of curious about maybe some guidance. So in the future, if, we wanted to build the case of, hey, we had a big ticket item, sure, we could make a request and put it in the CIP and maybe have that as a plan. But maybe in the November, December timeframe, could we, knowing budget situations, come up with a request? You're gonna have to approve any request we do. Could we get creative of, hey, we see some departments have some leftover funds, we'd like to get some radios that would benefit both, or maybe we could get, a couple sets of turnout gear, which are kind of big ticket items. So we're just kind of curious about guidance of, again, we're not just looking to spend the money that is not ours, but we thought, if there's opportunities to, make some smart purchases, maybe we could, bring that up for in the future.
The key word is smart. The reason I say that, and I did reach out to Mike Labonte, our financial planner, and currently what we do today in our current budget is that those unspent funds that weren't used, they just go back into our reserves and back into our checking account. And the money's there for budgeting, that's no question about that, but the money does go back. There's like three options. This first option is just it goes back into the checking account. It continues to make our checking account, or what we call our real funds, continue to look good. And that's good. It doesn't require auditing work or any additional auditing work. And you mentioned about the second option is that we can take funds like what you're asking about. We could transfer them over to because they come out of a budget, we transfer them over to our capital investment fund. And we don't do it today, but we'd have to request more work from our city staff to document the funds in a very detailed format in our capital investment fund. Those funds and where they're at and how they're being used. Because we could take those funds out of the fire department, let's say, and we take $20,000, we move it over to the capital investment fund, then we need to keep track of that $20,000 of how it's used. Because the capital investment fund sits differently from our checking account. And it can be done. It's something that we don't like to do. Well, we've never done it, but it'd be something that we prefer not to do it because of our auditors. Because the auditors have to do additional work to track those funds when you pull them out of the budget and it goes over to capital investment fund. Either you can use it from that fund or it may stay there and let the budget and let the capital improvement fund improve too. That's another option. So
I was just gonna say too, off of that, me and Kane talked also, and then those two. So I contacted Smith and Schaefer, and Smith and Schaefer said the same thing. It goes back into the general fund. Would be a freak deal that you would do something like this. It would be an emergent situation or a desperation need, like a building went down because of a windstorm or something. They said moving around funds is not a good idea. The stuff that goes back into the general should be put in a CIP or like the savings or checking account. You don't want to move like public works to firemen, or you know what I mean? And they have to track all that. And he said the point of the leftover funds, it goes back all into the general account. And then it could be used for, let's say we had a flood, or let's say we had the big windstorm last week. Let's say it took down Kane's shed. That's what it's used for. He said, you don't want to get in the habit of moving funds and just throwing stuff up and spending the money because it's for emergent situations. So I did check with the CPA and he checked with our financial advisor, two separate entities, and they both had the same things. We weren't even together when we checked on it, so.
Okay. Well, again, it's kind of interesting.
Yep.
So that's
Discussion of.
an essence of time for tonight, but that's kind of the essence of, it can be done, it takes work, but we don't want to abuse it either, so.
Yeah, and we're thinking that we do want to maybe be a little more, proactive on some of the things that we're thinking. So again, we weren't going to just surprise you. Hey, oh, by the way, I would like to spend 50 grand on whatever. There will be some headlights in what we want to do, but so it sounds like some things maybe aren't so receptive, but maybe some other things we could make
It
suggestions.
was a good discussion. I learned a lot, so I'm
I
sure.
did too.
Okay, it's good to have a discussion. And then bills, so we have, so Johan, one of our new guys, very excited he took over our training officer responsibilities. And so he wants to do, get a little more formal education, and we get money every year from the state. I think right now it's $110 a head count. So we get money, so I think we're at like 20, anywhere from, $1,800 to $200. So we're gonna try and get some more formalized education. It's nice for us to do in-house, but sometimes, people are a little more receptive when somebody else comes in and gives education. So we did a search and rescue trailer. You might have saw we posted on Facebook. So that's $1,100 bill. And then when I submitted the bill, I mentioned again that you request the money, you don't have to wait, you do it right now, and we have till July of next year. So we'll probably have another one next year, and then we get 100% reimbursement. So it's, why wouldn't we train when we get this money? They also do a redistribution. So if we got $2,200 and we send them bills for $3,000 at the end of the thing, they give us all that we are allotted. But then if other people haven't used their money, then they do a reallotment of the money, especially in a biennial, so every 2 years, they have to wipe that fund clean. So a lot of people who do training and submit more bills than their amount usually get more money back. So it's kind of free money. So long story of when you see these training bills, it's good for us to have formal training, and plus we get 100% reimbursement. Like that bill for 11.
Move to approve the bill for $1,100 for Riverland training.
I'll second it. Any other comments? All those approved, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Next bill was hopefully the last bill of our service. So every year we do, again, as a reminder, we do pump, the actual pump part of the trucks. We do kind of service, and then we do certification for the ISO, the Insurance Service Organization. And so we have to have our pumps certified to help us with our class rating. And we actually went down in 2020 because of the things that we're doing. And so engine 2, our older engine, had a valve that was leaking, so unfortunately would not have passed the test. So now we've passed the test. So it sounds like last month, you get these bills, they're big, but there's a lot of hours, and truck parts are not cheap. So we do what we can. We try to be, again, smart of what we repair. So this we have to repair so it works, and also repair for the ISO. So approve the fire safety invoice for the repair of our older engine.
Pay the $2,053.
I'll second it. Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, it's approved. First responders,
Yep, so you can see there, we had 12 city and 7 township, quite busy previous month. We also had elections. The first responders, we didn't quite realize this, but it actually has a term limit for the director. And so we don't have that on the fire, but we have on the first responders. So Chris and I looked at each other and said, okay, how about we just flip? So I was assistant director, so I became director, and he picked it up. So, not a lot of hands were raising, so it was kind of an easy solution to just, flip our roles. So I'll be the director, Chris Enn will be assistant director, Kathy Ellenson's our training officer, and Christina Inman is our secretary. And then
EOC,
EOCs, like I said, so Pat got elected again for the EOC position. And then every year we have the generator at the fire hall. They go through and service it. It's actually like a GM car motor. And so they drain the oil, they change the plugs, and they do the things. That's one of those things that, $550. I actually went and checked to see, that seems to me like a lot of money. But then the answer was, well, okay, you cannot do it. But then if we had a storm and it didn't work, what would happen? So it's like, okay, $550 every year, we just do it. So we actually, so we got last year, the bill hit this year's budget. So this is the new company. So we got the second one. So again, long story, every year you're going to see a bill under the EOC for the generator as just preventative maintenance to make sure it works when it's supposed to be needed.
I make a motion to approve the invoice of $550 for the generator.
Second.
Upkeep.
I'll
Second.
second it. It was the only place in town that had lights Friday night. It was working, so that's good.
And the reason we got the generator was one time power did go out. We had a call and we couldn't get the doors down because the course, there was no power and the trucks are there and how do you get? So that kind of led the whole, we need to have a generator at the fire hall for these times, so.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Opposed, approved. All right, perfect,
Thanks,
thank you, thank you. Okay, the next item is planning and zoning. And we have a gentleman, Vanessa Kambake, who's going to join us and share thoughts and comments about low, moderate income assisted living potential in downtown. He did give a presentation or comments to the P and Z meeting in September. Just a general overview of what your thoughts were, and this is just kind of a continuation of that discussion. So, thanks for
Good
coming.
evening, Vanessa Kambake here. On behalf of my company and my team, I just wanted to propose a development in downtown area for assisted living and independent living for 55 plus here in Onoco. So we're looking at low income to affordable housing for seniors, depending on structure and topography of the land on First Avenue and First Street Northwest. That'll depend on what structure regeneration will develop, whether that's independent living or just assisted living by itself. So we're proposing that, we develop that project here in the city of Onoco, like as I mentioned before. I'm also proposing purchase of the land from the city or have the land gifted to regeneration for development of assisted living. And I provided some just some pictures of what the structure would look like. So it's more of a residential style. So it's not a 15-story building that we plan on building there. It's a residential that would just complement the surrounding area within the city.
So this is what the pictures show is low or assisted living or just senior.
So that would be senior living, and then my builder, my team is looking at structuring what assisted living would look like based on the topography of the land and how that looks. So you might need more parking for staffing and so forth. So just looking at what it would look like, we could provide more of a rendering and a site plan in the next 30 to 45 days.
And just to make sure that the lot you're looking at, is that a double lot or the single? There's two lots or one?
So we're looking at the double and then the single.
So these, just to reference everybody, this is the lot to the south of Paul Pendergrass's home, between there and what they call the Alamo or.
Okay, so the slope, the big slope.
Right, so that's one, and then the two lots are the ones up above where the car show was at on
Yep.
one, and the Lions was where the old Public Works garage is at. And those are the three lots that is being considered or would like to have some opportunity to have some discussions about. Right, yeah. So so these are city properties, as you know, so there is, there's things that the planning and zoning would have to look at from a zoning perspective of V1 or V2 and an R2. Because it's a B along Minnesota Avenue. And right now it's R1 for the two lots above, so that would have to change for R2. If everything fits with the land that he wants to use and everything, so. So I did, Mike, are you on?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
Can you see me?
No.
No.
Okay. What did you want to ask, Mayor?
Okay, just in, so did you hear the conversation like that Vanessa has shared with us?
Yes.
Okay, so in general, we would like to just have some, and maybe this is where the council, where the council needs to decide that this is something that we want to have to pursue or have Mike share with us what the different avenues are for selling the property, if we want to sell the property. One thing, that's probably the biggest one, perspective. And then, I know if we don't, I'm not looking for decisions tonight, but the point is we need to kind of go through a process of identifying how best to go through this if we want to pursue selling those lots.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. I mean, you have the right to sell real property. As a city, you can do that. There's a process for that, but it's, cities do that all the time. I think this is a huge development, though. I mean, Orinoco is not a city that has a lot of infrastructure. For example, you don't have a police force, and you don't have a full-time fire department or EMS. You're a small, very small city, so you might want to consider issues like how many additional residents this is going to bring into the city. Will the city be able to support that kind of development? And then there's zoning and land use issues. Obviously, the properties have to be zoned for their use, the right use. That could require, up to and including, rezoning, amending the zoning code to add a zoning district, issuing conditional use permits or interim use permits, any or all of those things or other things, possibly granting variances, depending on the development plan. And then the financing, if there's a lot of times projects like this involve public financing, such as tax increment financing or tax abatement. And so if that's the plan of the developer, and I don't know that it is or isn't, but if it is, you'd want to engage a financial planner such as Mike Bubani to assist with that. And then there's the question of, use of the property and deed restrictions. You'd have the right to, place deed restrictions on the deed of conveyance to the developer to ensure that the project is built a certain way or to city specifications. So I guess there's just a lot of questions, but there's a lot that goes into something like this. Selling the land is the easy part. I would not advise the city to sell this land to a developer, without legal guarantees that the development is going to be what the city wants, and legal guarantees that it's going to be built in the manner that the city is expecting it to be built, that is pursuant to a development plan that's submitted. So I don't know if the development plan that exists currently is prepared, in final form. It kind of sounded like it wasn't in final form because there's still considerations of assisted living versus not assisted living. So there's all sorts of issues here. I don't know how you're going to go about. I think the biggest issue probably for the city of Orinoco, is you don't have an administrator. You just, who's going to do the work to facilitate all of this, and how is that going to happen? So those would be my thoughts on it, but I don't know any facts related to this at all. But those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Mike.
So.
I know there's, we're looking at a planning service and using Stantec's planning services. And is this something that the Stantec planning services would assist the city with P and Z, or?
We can to some extent. The financial pieces of it probably wouldn't be something that we would typically do, but you typically use Mike Bubani or somebody else for those pieces of the puzzle. But certainly Phil and his group have experience helping cities with this.
When Mike was talking about a huge development, I'm not getting that. How many units are you?
Yeah, so it'll fit between 6 and 12.
Okay.
So it's nothing that's.
So it's, yeah, so,
Massive development. Or anything
Right.
like that. It's more of a residential, if anything.
right. Well, I think, I don't think there's anybody in town that doesn't agree that senior planning is something we need for this community. Senior housing is something we need for this community. We lack that. I don't think I mean, maybe it would bring a few people to the community. What I think it could do instead is allow people to stay in our community, which I know people want to do. Who are older and maybe don't want a bigger home and yard to take care of. So I think it would be worth having a conversation and looking further into. That property is a tricky thing. We can't do anything. You know, we've never been able to do, we can't even use it for gold rush really because of the slope. So,
The one next to the Minnesota Avenue.
right, it would be nice if something else could be done with it and it could be utilized.
Well, and I think too, with water and sewer coming in, there's a lot of opportunity for any of this property in town, whether it's this or businesses. I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity. And I would also look at our future land use plan and see, you know, how does this fit? You know, does it fit into it? And yeah, I would definitely say there's discussion to be had. Right.
Is this the only land that is being considered?
You have talked to other property owners. You want to comment on that or?
Yeah, so I've had, and we have future plans to develop a larger structure on the other side of town.
As far as downtown, I know you talked to the people that own the property around the Pines,
Correct.
and
They're not interested in selling that portion.
so yeah, this is kind of the only land available that could serve, you know, from a gold rush perspective, we still have the right of ways that we could still use for the gold rush resolution, so. So I think it's I know there was another business owner that's interested in doing some work too in downtown, but I haven't heard much. But of course, if we put it up for sale, then whoever would like to bid on it can do that, of course, so. But I have not heard from that person for a couple of years, so I don't know. But so I guess what so from your perspective, Vanessa, you're working with an engineering group, so you've got some square footages that from the county website, identifying the property size and everything. So have you done any more with that engineer to look at how them would be arranged? And
So the goal was.
there's a lot of other details like stormwater runoff of the parking lot that you have to account for. And so it takes up space too, so.
So they were planning on coming out here last week, but unfortunately the storm got ahead of them. So we're gonna be planning on doing that after the holidays, since there's a lot going on their side and also on my side here. So that's the next step that we'll plan on doing, and also providing you with a site plan or rendering, so you can kind of see what it would look like on the structure.
I would suggest you continuing with that and bring that to planning and zoning and get their feedback from it. And I think that might be the next step to consider and just really see how it would fit in. Hope it will, but you need to find out for sure. Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
all right. Thanks for.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you. Thanks. Next item on the agenda was what we moved up regarding the appointment of the new council member. So we had our interviews last night with the three members, Skylar, Jim, and Skylar Breitenstein, Jim Phillips, and Carl Kraus. They all responded well to our questions that was asked of them, and the comments they shared as well. And I think that was all very positive. There's been, just kind of preface, I guess, what we're actually doing here. We're looking at somebody to fill in for the balance of the year. The 12 months is what we're feeling it. It's not a big assignment. It is from the standpoint of time commitment and everything, but it's a year assignment, and so it's a fill-in, so. And go ahead, any comments, I guess,
Yeah.
before we?
So I have a couple, and I don't want any of the members to think this is in malice in any way. Just some points that I see, and you know, a couple things that I would like us to think about here. As I read Skylar's emails, to me, it was evident. I mean, because if you go through it, you know, some of the things I've highlighted, you know, at the beginning of his first email, Skylar says, I'm not confident that I can do the job as someone with a more routine schedule. And I'm not here to say that Skylar didn't do a great job, and you know, if schedule permitted that he wouldn't. I see the time commitment, and I look at that, and I do. I mean, we have to think about what was said last time, you know, in terms of Gold Rush and the commitment. And then what was said at the last council meeting. You know, it was brought up that, you know, Carl's was an ex-council member. He wasn't revoted in. And I would say that Skylar is also an ex-council member, wasn't revoted in. And I think we need to consider that as well. And the attendance at the meeting. You know, he's telling us that he can't, and it's to no fault of his own. I mean, it's his job. So, I mean, and I think we do have two candidates that are very able to engage based on their schedules. You know, what one candidate has a lot of experience on the council, the other candidate has you know, other experience, and is, I think, a good candidate, very good candidate as well. And with that, I mean, I would move to, honestly, I would make a motion to appoint Jim Phillips. Based on everything that we've seen in the emails and the things that Skylar has said. And again, not to say Skylar wouldn't do a great job if he had a better work schedule.
Are you making a motion?
I mean,
Okay. I will second for discussion. Yeah, I agree with really everything you said. And I think I appreciated everyone coming last night and giving their all and answering the questions. It's been a tough 24 hours because I can see value in all three of you. And I think, you know, we have to be careful. This is going to be a big year for our city, and my hope would be that, you know, whoever we bring in would then do a great job and run again, and you know, citizens can make their voices heard at that point. And my other hope would be that you know, whoever isn't brought in would run in the next election in 2022. So I agree with what you said. I like the idea that Jim Phillips has the time, the ability to be here. Although he doesn't have experience on council, I think there's also something to be said for not having that history. I think sometimes that's okay too.
Yeah, I would agree. I like what Jim had to say. I think there's, I liked just the fact, from his background of definitely a people person, interacting with people. I think that's a good quality. His work for the work and appears to have a good work ethic as well. It would be a learning process, but at the same time, being retired makes you, or allows you to have that time to learn too. And there are a lot of good training classes and everything that kind of brings everybody up to speed, or at least to the point that it doesn't happen overnight. It takes multiple months to really become familiar with the process. And Lizzie can probably attest to that as much as anybody, because it is something, it's a new environment to be in. And it does take somebody with a lot of patience and at the same time wants to learn too, so.
And I very much appreciate everyone that came forward. It's nice to know that we do have people interested in this community and taking the time to apply and be at the meetings and everything like that. Yeah, I mean, I disagree a little bit with the time, only because, with your interview, you said it the best. When you interviewed, someone asked you, do you have time? Or how are you gonna make it? And you said, I don't have time. But here you are, you've done a great, amazing job. Time is what you make of it. And there is a saying that if you want something done, you ask a busy person to do it. I think what I like about Skylar is that when he hasn't been serving on council, he's attended meetings, he volunteers, he shows up for the city outside of council. That's unique to him in this current situation. There's humongous value in that. There's also humongous value in his experience in the two previous council members that came here tonight to speak for him and a previous mayor. That's hard to ignore. I see this as a person that could jump right in without any of the needed education and training and orientation. And there's huge value to that. Also, he's familiar with the project. Something they worked on many years ago and continued, and he said he followed it and reads minutes, and that's incredibly important and valuable.
And Dana and I, just to take off of what you're saying, I don't discount any of those things, and I think that's what makes it so difficult. But I also know that over the last 2 years, there has been tension whether Jim has been able to attend our Gold Rush meetings or the entire event. In the last Gold Rush meeting, it was tense. So I don't think it's fair to put pressure on one counselor to feel like you have to be here, you have to be here, you have to be here. We want it to be your commitment and your priority. And then we have someone else who's saying, I don't know that I will be able to be there for the entire thing, for the entire event. I don't know that I'll be able to be there for all of our meetings. I don't know what my schedule is going to look like. And there may be someone else out there that has more time that can commit. So I feel like that's my drawback. That's what kind of pulls me back from Skylar and says, he's telling us he may not be the right person because of his travels and his work. I think if that weren't the case and we wouldn't have this history with kind of struggling to make sure that we had all of our counselors around for Gold Rush and for the meetings, I would feel differently.
And the other thing I'll bring up is, I can appreciate what you're saying about Skylar, being involved. But I will also say Carl Kraus has been very involved. He's been here, he's done many, many things, continues to be involved in the community, even though he's not on the council. And so we're recognizing Skylar for that, and I recognize Carl Kraus for that. Carl Kraus could step into this without a second heartbeat and pick up where Lizzie left off. So I can appreciate.
And I just wanted I wanted to clarify the Gold Rush thing, because it was mentioned earlier too. We don't do it, so even you said when you applied, or when you got onto council, you never even realized it was a requirement.
Yeah, it was never.
So we've
told.
never done a good job of laying out those expectations, and that does need to change. There was not a single one of us, except you, who was here for the entire show this year. People have jobs. I had to move my son to college. You know, Lizzie's dad filled in one day. Kristen had to go away, you know, so all of it, you and Melissa, I think, were the only two. You were here the whole time this time? Okay, good job. And Laura's like, don't forget me. This one, 2 years ago, you had, but whatever.
Yes.
That has been always the case. We've always had to deal with that. And like Skylar said, he's like, if I'm here, I'm 100% in. And like, the other thing is, there's so much work that has to be done during the week of Gold Rush, all day long and whatever. So that's a huge benefit too, having someone who's has off during the week. So I'll just say that. And like I said, there's room to be, there's a lot of improvement to be made with how we handle Gold Rush and the committees and things. I've been thinking about it, and I think it's something we need to discuss, but I think it can all be handled better. And I'm hoping to grow a healthy enough Gold Rush that, because counselors didn't used to have, from my understanding, counselors didn't used to have to serve on Gold Rush. It was just that we didn't have enough volunteers for my committee members. That was a long time ago, but it would be nice to see that happen again too. But either way, I still believe that even though the time constraints are there, they're there for everyone. People, you had a meeting you had to miss the other night because of work commitments. It happens to all of us. It's just, that's just my thoughts. And I just he's a servant, he's a humble servant, and that's what we need. That's what we need. And I see that in him all the time, and clearly a lot of other people do too. So
I can appreciate your comments about Skylar too, because I really admire him for stepping up, and like he talked in his comments last night, you know, nobody's stepping up, so I got to step up, you know. That's the type of person he is. And he made a reference to picking up the trash at Gold Rush. Well, I've seen him here when he was a chairman on the Gold Rush committee. He was cleaning the bathrooms at 10 o'clock at night after Gold Rush, because we didn't hire people to do it, you know. So his work ethic is just tremendous, and I really admire him and appreciate everything he does for the city and the food bank and the Dorothy Day in Rochester. I just feel like if we did choose him, it just seems like we'd be putting a lot of pressure on him. Not that he couldn't handle it, but it would take time away, even more time away from when he's traveling with his family and everything. But that's something that he talked about in his application, that the family supports and everything. But and I do think that Jim would do a good job. You know, Lizzie came on relatively new, and she was working full-time, a lot remote work from Washington, DC, or wherever she worked, East Coast. But I think that the fact that Jim is willing to step up and being retired, that he can grasp and take the time to come up fairly fast to the activities and the committees that he'd be on too, so.
And with that said, I mean, even though I made a motion for Jim, I have the utmost respect for Skylar and for Carl. I mean, Carl has been very involved in this community as well. And as I said, he continues to be involved. And I mean, basically fighting to be involved in it. So you have to commend that as well. I've got a lot of respect for Carl for that. And I've lived in Orinoco for 30+ years, and Carl's always been involved, so thank you, Carl.
Any other comments? I think it's, I appreciate everybody taking the time to send the applications in and everything. And if there's no other comments, all those in favor of Jim Phillips is filling in the appointment left by Lizzie, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Nay.
I said aye.
Okay, so. All right, Jim is our new appointed council member, so. So Jim, you come forward.
I do want to say thank you for the three that did run.
Yes,
Very much appreciated.
thanks Carl, thanks Skylar, thank you.
The homestead.
So he has to read it. Okay.
I, James Phillips, do solemnly swear and affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota. And I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office of City Council in the County of Olmsted in the state of Minnesota to the best of my judgment and my ability.
Congratulations, thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll put you to work right away.
Okay.
Are you gonna have it? Yep, I got it packed.
So he can come up.
There's cookies for you.
Got a little packet there for me.
Oh, yeah.
Just a little.
This is a small one.
It is, I thought. I was like, it can't be right.
Thank you for the cookies.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Okay, so we're at point number F. Our regular agenda of ordinances and resolutions. So these are all a voice vote, individual voice vote when we ask for the vote. Well, the first one is resolution 2021-33. Excuse me. So this is setting our final tax levy. And there's a sheet on your desk of a spreadsheet. Identified, called out, basically just called out the percent increases. So I'll just read through these. So we'll start with our adjusted property tax that was available to us to use, the city from the county. In 2021, it was $2,430,125. And for 2022 is a 1.4% increase to $2,463,029. So with that adjusted property tax, we went through the budget process of identifying the revenue, our expenditures, And we came up with a general levy of a 2.8% increase from 2021, which is $852,102 to $875,926. And within that 875,000, there's 100,000 in our capital investment fund for 2022. So that was a 2.8% increase. In addition to the general levy, we go through the different bonds that we have. And we have ended up with a total levy of 920,971, which is a 2.7% increase from $896,716 in 2021 to $920,971. So that ultimately gave us a tax rate of 0.374. In 2022 and 2021, it was 0.369, which is a 1.5% increase. Very small increase. We went through the budget and we identified different things to, we're in the process of hiring a part-time administrative assistant sometime here in early 2022. We're also looking at a full-time public works person starting in the April timeframe. And we're also bringing, we budgeted money for a planning services. And we're also, we'll be looking at a contract signing sometime in 2022 with CEDA, Community Economic Development Authority, to help us put together an EDA, Economic Development Authority, which we haven't had before. So that's some exciting things with us. So in spite of all of those, we just made some other changes in some other departments. And so it was a modest increase of 1.5%. Just one other point regarding how it affects our residents. In 2021, if you had a $250,000 home value, your taxes were $866 a year. And with this, your house increases to say $270,000 in 2022. Your property taxes would be $959, which is a $93 increase in city taxes for the year, or $7.75 per month. So it's a pretty modest income increase. And so that 0.374 tax rate, last year was 0.369. We still have one of the lowest tax rates in the county. But that most likely will change for 2023 as we increase our public works with equipment and whatever's going to be ahead of us with our sewer project and bringing more development into the city. A lot of numbers. Any question? So with that, I make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-33. Second. Jim? Comments? Seeing none, all those by voice vote individually, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay. That's approved. We have a lot of resolutions, we have a lot of motions ahead of us tonight, so I don't think they do as many as we can and go for it. Next resolution is 2021-35, which is assessment of property taxes for unpaid water bills.
No, 2021-34, you skipped one, number 2.
The reason I skipped this because I didn't, oh, there it is, okay. I'm sorry. Yes, I did. Resolution designated annual polling places. This is in light of the upcoming election in 2022 and
What's the number on it again?
-34.
Yeah, 2021-34, it's number 2 under ordinances.
Yeah, okay.
That's okay, Rylan, I know. There you go.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-34.
Second,
Polling places,
Mhm.
Pardon?
so that's for the polling places, right, designated annual polling places, so that's here,
Yeah, these two rooms here,
okay.
both the township and the city. This is the voting center.
Okay.
So it's a kind of a procedure type thing we have to document. So,
Okay.
any other comments? All those in favor by voice vote?
aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Approved. This resolution is 2021-35, the assessment of tax for unpaid water bills. So we have water, because of our water system, we have people that do not pay water bills throughout the year, so this goes on their taxes. So these are assessments for these four properties. So they'll go on their property tax rolls. We'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion to. Accept resolution 2021-35 for the assessment of property taxes for unpaid water bills.
Second.
Comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the voice vote?
Aye.
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 all right,
Approved. Item is resolution 20. Skip 36 for some reason.
Yeah, that's that one you told me to hold off on.
Oh, yeah. That'll be a 2022.
Yeah.
So we're gonna make this one
No,
just void it.
yeah.
Okay. 2021-37, accepting fire relief donation for 60,000, and this will go into their fire equipment fund in the capital investment committee or capital investment fund. I make a motion, we approve this donation from the Fire Relief Association. Is there a second?
I second.
Jim?
Is there a reason that it says 60,000 in the?
I do have a new one on your packet.
Okay.
It was-
it's not 60,
It is 60. The one in the packet, I had a typo, so in one of right here.
Previous copy had 15.
Yep.
Oversight.
I'm missing those. I have 237s. That's all I.
Yeah, 36, 36 is not in the pack.
Yeah, I have.
Well, there should be 237 because there was a typo on one. You should have had 237s. One had a typo.
Okay.
Yep, and I do.
Yeah, that's what-
I just want to.
One said 15. All in favor of the voice vote? Signify by saying aye.
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 all right,
Approved. Water and sewer. Contracts for the construction services, identifying Stantec, and how they're gonna monitor and keep everybody on the straight and narrow. During our project. Something that all funded by the bonding bill appropriation. Submitting.
Right, so essentially, it's, you know, the next step in the next phase of the project. So it allows us to provide construction services on behalf of the city for administration, construction observation, construction staking. We've also included American engineering testing for materials testing, rocks gradations, concrete testing, those types of things. So this is really what we envision it'll cost to get us through the next couple of years of construction. And so all the work is, you know, similar to what we've done before in terms of it's in conformance with our contract with the city. All the work is done on an hourly basis. So You know, if we don't put in the effort, we don't get paid, we don't bill you for it. And essentially, again, it kind of runs through the next 2 years, as the mayor talked about. It is reimbursable through the 2020 bonding appropriation. A lot of information in detail, if you really dig into the work plan. I am assuming the council maybe doesn't want to go through all that detail tonight. I'd be happy to talk about it if you want to. Are there any things or any information within either of the 2 letter proposals that you guys have questions about or want to talk about in detail?
The only question I have, I don't have any questions about the details, but is there a team of people that you'll have on site on a daily basis, I guess? Or-
Yes, yeah, we've kind of designated our team for both the wastewater treatment facility as well as the collection conveyance system. I will head both teams. And then there'll be a little bit of crossover, but to a large extent, they're designated solely for that project. So there'll be a couple people solely on the collection conveyance system and one individual predominantly on the wastewater treatment facility. And then there's a fairly large team that's reviewing shop drawings, and that'll come down for spot inspections like the electrical engineers and the instruments and controls people and the process people and the mechanical people and the structural, you know, that group will come out periodically, but we've already started our reviewing shop drawings. We're able to do that because we had some excess budget from the design side, hourly tasks that we've been able to utilize to get through the pre-construction meeting. And there's been a lot of shop drawing activity. We've also, on the wastewater treatment facility side of things, been talking about some of those value engineering items that we're working on with the contractor. I expect that we will have those in final form and we'll bring them back to the council in January for consideration. So some good work being done there, but we're quickly running out of budget from the design side. And so that's where the proposals for the construction services side come in and again, allow us to get through the end of the project.
So very, very briefly, how will you keep the council updated in the council meetings with statuses, or what's your?
That's a good question. You know, certainly I'll provide some update information to the council at the council meetings, but there's going to be a lot going on, and I don't want to sit here for half an hour, and
No.
I'm sure you don't want me to do either, but we'll have weekly on-site meetings at the treatment facility as well as at the collection conveyance system. So anybody that wants to attend from this group would be welcome. Kane will be there. We'll also have a larger meeting on a monthly basis with both sets of contractors and the same group kind of going over details in terms of, big picture items in terms of schedule and phasing and, what's on the horizon, also addressing ongoing issues or concerns. And then there has to be coordination between the 2 entities, especially as we move into the second year of construction when things need to be done in order for other pieces of the puzzle to progress. So, that's a good question in terms of how much involvement the council wants or how you get that information. Within the work plan, I'm also planning to send out probably a bi-weekly update to residents saying, this is what's happened in the last 2 weeks. Over the next 2 weeks, this is where we expect construction to be occurring, and this is what we expect the impacts will be, and probably have some sort of visual aid or kind of map or figure that graphically illustrates kind of the hot spots of construction, things for them to think about, look about, garbage service, mail service, alternate access routes, those types of things. Of course, my contact information and my team's contact information, at least the leads of the teams, will be provided to the residents. And then other information, for example, if we're installing or staking sewer and water services, that's one thing that people want input on. So we staked your sewer and water service, it's marked with a pink ribbon in your front yard. And if you have a concern about that location, call this number and we'll meet you.
How will you communicate that information
That specific information,
to residents?
or the news, the kind of the weekly update.
So the bi-weekly update, you're asked, how do you communicate that to residents?
So the hope is we've been trying to collect email addresses. So when we have public hearings, meeting with people, we're trying to collect that email addresses, and that seems to be a pretty efficient way to get things out. So by email, kind of a email blast on a bi-weekly or every other week basis, and then we'll also have a location on the city's website where all that information will be
And then we
provided.
can push that to social media. Because I think a lot of people pull information that way.
You know, and then at the onset of construction, we'll probably have a kind of a community meeting, providing some broad information about how we kind of envision construction will go, and introducing the contractors and talking about some of the processes that we'll use to disseminate information, and then how they should approach us if they have questions, those types of things. So
I would ask too, if you have a schedule of events, if, you know, like a one pager, if we could put it on the bulletin board. Because that's one thing I have heard. There's some older people in town that don't do anything with a computer or email, and they just rely on.
yeah, I see that, you know, and in that bi-weekly, you know, I'll probably try to disseminate that information at a really high level without detail, because the detail is
Absolutely.
overwhelming. But yeah, we've got to figure out how to reach
So-
people that aren't on their computer.
I agree,
and-
like posting it out here, like a schedule, but there's a lot of people that use the post office bulletin board
Yeah, I was
as
also gonna suggest that.
as
if they look at
a
it.
touch point for.
Maybe even just
community,
have a
a
couple
rotating-
dozen handouts there for people to
Well,
grab too, if they, you know, rather, so they can take it home.
Mhm.
Um,
You can maybe use the post office bulletin board,
Yeah, there's
that where we,
somebody different there now,
Behind the
so
glass.
it's a lot, it's a little bit more structured in there, so you, like before you could, nobody cared what you put up, but you might just need to ask permission. I never felt like you had to ask permission before, but now I think
we'll
you do.
look forward to your update in January
Yeah,
18th.
January.
That's our next council meeting. You can give us an update what's happened.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Are you gonna be in
So, yeah.
Florida or no?
No, I was planning to go somewhere at the end of January, but with COVID.
No problem, but I think we'll just kind of learn as we go too, what to
Yeah, no.
expect and how best to communicate.
Yeah, I've kind of had a fair amount of experience with the larger projects and disseminating information to people, and the methods that we've kind of laid out within the work plan using email and websites and handouts. And using the post office, I think specifically here probably makes a lot of sense. Sometimes we have rows of temporary mailboxes within neighborhoods because the mailboxes come down because the streets, you know, and then we have a kind of a informational mailbox that everybody can grab every time they come get.
Mhm.
We've used that before. So there's different things that we'll tailor that into what we're here.
could we even put like a little box like that by City Hall for people to take the, you know, like realtors have for
Yeah,
homes? We could have that at City Hall, post outside or something, so people can just jump in. out and grab it.
whenever without
Yeah,
City Hall being open.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good idea too. But I'd really like to get people on email, and because
Yeah.
that is really an efficient way. And then if they have questions, they can email me back or call me back rather than,
but just, but to make sure we serve all people that, you know, not everybody does use
Right. absolutely.
email, so that is good.
Is it okay if we make a motion to approve all three contracts in one motion?
Yeah, there's just the two.
Or it's just the two, but it's the three. So I make a motion, we approve contract one for the wastewater treatment plant and this construction services contract for 2 and 3 as well.
I second
The
that.
one is for wastewater?
wastewater and also the infrastructure.
Okay.
Infrastructure is all the lines, ladder trucks, lift stations. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's approved. Only question I have on the wastewater project update, have you scheduled, or been able to schedule the pre-construction meeting for Fitzgerald?
No. They have executed the contracts. I have them here for signature tonight. They provided bonds that are acceptable in terms of the pay bond and the performance bond. They have not provided an acceptable insurance certificate yet. So we're not gonna have the pre-con until they get the insurance certificate, and then we will have it. So I've been promised the insurance certificate by the end of the week. I figured probably the first week in January we'll have the pre-con.
So, in case we could, Geraldine may have to leave early here and not stay for the whole meeting, but we could sign them next Tuesday when she comes back in the office. Would that be okay?
Or I can sign them now.
Yeah, I can set them out on the table back there if you, after.
I'm on the wastewater update right there. So then it goes to streets.
Okay. Anything else? Briefly update there. I sent a picture to post of the dirt being moved yesterday.
Yep.
So I asked to put that on Facebook and website.
I could, is that right if I just go, if,
Want to go back here?
Yeah, just go ahead. I think we're done here, so
yeah,
we'll take care of the rest of the stuff here.
yeah, I'll be back in a second if we have other things.
So where's it at?
For the wastewater. You wanna
It's on,
explain?
when you come off the interstate, when you come off 52 and down 112, you take a left to come on Minnesota Avenue,
Right.
take a right there, it's a gravel road. And go to the cul-de-sac about a mile down the road. And it starts there and goes 10 acres. You'll see them dozing dirt now, so.
Okay. Just want to know where to
Yeah.
start
That's a
watching.
good
and stuff,
question,
but yeah.
You and me both. I haven't been down the road yet.
So I took a picture yesterday of moving dirt, so that'd be posted on Facebook. All right, next item is pay request, the third and final for the Minnesota wall for $3,877.84. Formality here to sign that. I make a motion, we approve
I have a question.
pay request number 3.
Do we know that everything is totally done on this?
I was aware
Nothing
that
is-
the fence came back.
It's in
With the letter said.
and that's this one. It's the retaining wall. So Kane, can we ask you, as far as the retaining wall, to your knowledge, is everything done to plan?
Yep, everything is completed with the Minnesota Avenue wall. I can't speak for Joe and Stantec, but I believe it's completed 100%.
The letter says that it has been.
Yeah, the letter says it's complete.
So that's all according to plan. I make a motion that we pay the final payment.
I'll second that. Comments or questions? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 All right.
Second, I think it's Second Avenue Southeast. Was that just a general discussion? There wasn't anything?
Yeah, I was just gonna bring it back because we're discussing the 720 that Kane, but Kane probably wants to talk to that. And so I saw it was on there and I just, Second Avenue, Dale Weens called me again and he had a close call. Was almost hit again. We got
So
him,
this was a resident or somebody drive, or Dave,
Dale.
or Dave,
Dale
oh, Dale, I'm sorry.
was almost, had a close call again. And I just think, I mean, he's basically just asking for help.
Mhm.
And I told Kane and I just emailed him and I'm, kind of like, what can we do? And then I had Sherilyn and Renee forward you on some things I found about changing speed limits, and things like that around the state. There was a Matamidi that did it, and I'm just hoping to proceed with this as soon as possible, that we, first of all, get a plan in play. I mean, it would be nice to have a city plan. I mean, I feel like there's, and this is not, I'm not trying to rip on anybody who's worked here in the past or on streets and roads in the past, but I just don't see that there's much rhyme or reason to street signs. Like there's 0 in our area, in our development. There's only 2, I think, in Riverwood Hills area. You know what I mean? So I just think if we could get more signage, lower the speed limit, address these issues with these very dangerous hills and blind intersections, I think that would be as quickly as we can move forward, because you got that message and Dale called me. And so I just thought we need to bring it back. And I think we were going to address it in January. But I think I would like to see us move forward
In
with the
November, we
plan.
talked about putting together a plan, like you said,
Yeah.
so.
So I guess I don't know
Formal
who's-
response, formal
Right,
response.
whose job is that? What do we do going forward?
So there's a couple of things we could do. I mean, I think it's, in my opinion, I think if we're gonna change speed limits, we need some good data and the facts. I know there's a lot of emotion about people saying it's speeding's happening. And, that's why we did the speed studies on West Center Street and Zumbo Hills. And the sergeant said the average speed was 29.4, 29.7, less than 30 miles an hour. In his mind, he said, we don't have a speeding problem. So to me, that's one fact. We do have the new signs, but we received the 30, if you want to talk about the signs.
Yeah, so we did receive the solar feedback signs. We have 2 of them. We unpackaged them today. One of them came damaged, so we're in the process of a claim and
Oh, yeah.
shipping it and all that. So they're just real quick on them. They're a little bit more than we thought. I mean, they're pretty cumbersome. They're large, they're big. They're gonna take another post getting pounded. It's not just going out and hanging it on a sign and walking away. There's a little bit more to the install than I was anticipating.
Is it like the Pine Island one or no? Is it different?
It is. The problem is Pine Islands is permanent.
Uh-huh.
So the thought was to move these around town and they're not just like a poster board. So there's gonna be some time involved with installation and.
So we really need to think about where we put them the first time.
Right. We can definitely move them around, but there's just some time that's gonna be involved there. So, as far as speed limits go, the council does need to make that decision. I can't make that decision. I can't say we need a stop sign. I can't say we need a speed limit sign. I believe I can put up warning signs, curve ahead, bump, slow. I'm pretty sure that could be handled under my realm as Public Works Director, but a regulatory sign, stop sign, speed limit, yield, I think those the council should vote on, keep the liability off of me.
And from what I understand is that Minnesota state statutes change so that we can adjust the speed limits without the extensive studies that you're talking about. To a certain point, you can't drastically, but 5 points, 5 miles per hour. From what I understand is a very common thing. Rochester just did it. It's certainly something I think we should suggest, how when you're going around a curve on the road and it'll be like all this, you're 55 miles an hour and the curve, they'll post, 30-mile-an-hour curve or whatever it is.
Right, or warrant.
Right,
Indicator, whatever.
right. Those are things I think we should do in areas where it's like this person that reached out to you, maybe make that a 20-mile-per-hour area just for that hill. Same with this,
Okay.
the area over here. I think there's things we can do. I do think we need a plan, but I don't think, from everything I've researched, that we do not need to provide a study. That used to be the case. It is no longer the case.
The only reason, go ahead.
Well, go ahead.
The only reason I would suggest a study is, we've done 2 speed studies. We have new signs that we can continue to collect data, same type of data the sheriff had with their signs. We can continue to collect data again and again, or wherever we move them for any length of time. So we can collect more data. I also think it'd be good to find out how many accidents we've had on our city streets. How many injuries have we had on our city streets? And to me, that's the type of the data that I think we need to consider. And at the same time, if we do lower the speeds, if that's what the council decides, that's fine. But I do think that we're gonna get more, and this gets back to the emotion, but at the same time, we'll have our screen or our radar signs to document. If we lower to 25 and everybody's going 29, it wasn't very effective. But the point is that may require more sheriff deputies. And right now, we know it would increase our contract from $56,000 to $112,000 for 40 hours of police or deputy sheriffs. And in our response, the response back from the sheriff department is that they don't really have deputies. It's been my impression, they don't have the deputies to cover 40 hours a year or a week. So there's a couple of things now, we've already adopted the budget, but to me, I think it's, we can demonstrate to the residents, we have our speed signs. And I think that would be good to get them up as soon as possible. I do think like on the blind spot, I do think that and I don't even know if it's even feasible to do this, just to put in a 20-mile-an-hour yellow sign instead of the slow.
But then you're changing the speed limit.
Yeah, yes, we're changing the speed limit just on that portion
Is
of the
that-
hill,
and is-
but because of the
okay.
blind spot.
Is that okay?
Kane's kind of shaking his head, I don't know.
I think it's up to the council, and maybe Joe can comment too, but I think it's up to the council. If the street's narrow, if there's a hill, if there's a curve, whatever it may be, I think it's up to the council to make that decision.
You know, what I would suggest we do, and I agree with what you're saying, Ryland, is so basically what I'm hearing, and I tend to believe, let's get the data to back it up before we just arbitrarily make speed limit changes and things like that. Get the data to back it up in case residents come to us, because we don't want residents coming to us all the time and saying, hey, I think people are moving too fast, they're driving too fast, change the speed limit. I don't think that should be the situation. And I'm not saying that's what it is here either. But I think if we have the data, first get the data to back up the need to change it. I think that's what we do first.
How do you collect, I mean, how do you collect data for an entire city? That's a very expensive project
Right,
from my
it's not the entire
understanding.
city though that's asking for it, though, right?
Well, if we were gonna go collect data to change an entire area, like if we were to go from 30 to 25, like Rochester just did, and a lot of small towns are doing that. It's in residential areas. In residential only. There are a lot of small towns are changing from 30 to 25. I don't know how you collect, I mean, it's probably possible. I'm sure that the sheriff, she was here forever ago, talked about it, but she said it's extremely expensive and time consuming. I'm worried more about, and maybe we do that, and maybe in the meantime, we do choose a few places. What I do think is important, no matter how we proceed, is that we develop a policy. Or so like what you said, I can't just get a phone call and then say, but this isn't just, and then say, hey, we need to do this. I think there's a policy that needs to happen. I think we have to adopt a policy. I think we have to though also think back to the last 6 months and how many people we've had in speaking of different areas of town, all with issues of speeding. So it's like collecting data is great,
I'm not saying
but I feel like we did do that, and you said, like you said, when you collect data, you put up a sign that tells you everybody you're collecting data, so they slow down. It's a tricky thing, you know what I mean?
It is. And I'm not for changing the speed limit in the entire city. I think there's areas.
Yeah, like just the residential
Right,
areas.
and like
neighborhood.
that hill, there's speed limits,
There's
there's speed issues, and then there's the whole blind spot issues. But I would say, let's collect the data before we do anything, and let's not do the scattergun approach just because there are some areas that are having problems, because that's not a small task.
there's a large, again, I sent you guys, I've been researching this, but there's places where there is guidelines for like if houses are this close together, then it's a good idea to have it at 25 miles an hour. You know what I mean? But in like a neighborhood where houses are, you've got 3-acre lots, then that's not necessary. So that's what you would look at. And I mean, I think personally, this will be a good thing for that the roads committee to gather information about our cities, streets, and the density of the homes and things like that.
And I think that's fair.
I think that would be a really smart way to proceed, but also I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel. I think we can really rely on what other cities have done. We can contact other areas and.
I think everybody did get a report of this Rochester speed limit. I'm not saying we do this into the detail they did, but the point is that in the report, I think this is where we may want to just approach Stantec to do a study for us, a limited study, because if you look at the study and read through it, they look at every street, they identify the corridors, they identify the residential streets, and that puts together, we can all sit here and we know about different streets, but we don't know all the streets. And so I think that's where the study, if we approach of looking at all of our streets, which are the collector streets, which are the residential, what's the main trunk roads and that type of thing. I know it's I like to think it'd be a small report, but it's a documented policy of what we have. And I don't know if that's something the council would want to consider having the planning services look at, giving us a proposal of what it would take to look at a speed study.
Was that in our packet?
No, it's not. This is from last August or whenever.
Oh, a while ago,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
okay.
I just pulled this out for reference.
No, that's fine. I was just like.
Yeah.
And I think too, Rylan, if we are going to do that, I would say that we set criteria in terms of the type of streets that we do these studies, because there's some streets it just doesn't make sense, right?
Let the study tell us that too, but
Right.
that would be our expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe.
Couple thoughts. Roanoke was a unique city from the standpoint of you have a lot of 20 to 24-foot wide roadways with no curb and gutter and ditches,
No sidewalk.
no sidewalk. That's unique. So comparing your city to Rochester probably isn't a good comparison in terms of just those simple criteria in conjunction with density and, commercial centers and different roadway uses. I think that one thing that you need to consider when you look at speed limits or regulatory signs within your city is consistency. You don't want to treat one area any different than the other. That consistency component is important from the standpoint of people know what to expect. If you're not consistent in terms of your signage, your speed controls, those types of things, you take on liability because, people didn't expect a stop sign there, or people didn't expect a speed change there, and that can be problematic. Studies can take lots of different forms. I don't think this would really need to be a complex study. I think that, like the mayor was talking about, a fairly simple, essentially a mapping exercise about, you know, where are your collector streets and what streets are just, you know, low density residential streets, you know, and then also understanding a little bit of information about the roadway geometrics, you know, Minnesota Avenue, that's one thing. But a lot of these other streets are, you know, they're narrow streets. They're not even 24-foot wide streets with little to no shoulder. In my opinion, I would look at those differently, especially in areas where there's hills and things like that, you know. You could make a fairly convincing case to modify speed limits in those types of situations or uniformly if you want to do that. But I would consider those points as we contemplate what to do.
Would your study also recommend street sign locations?
Street sign
Speed,
location.
the speed limits, I'm sorry.
Oh, speed
signs.
limit sign locations. You can, you know, usually you don't sign residential streets with speed limit signs. You know,
Unless there's an issue, right?
unless there's an issue or, you know, something unusual, you know.
But like at the.
That's the
at a big-
consistency piece of the puzzle. You know, if you go into my neighborhood in Rochester, we don't have speed limit signs.
So at the beginning of a development that's fairly large, you wouldn't,
You could do that, especially if it's, you know, if it's different than 30 miles an hour, you know, if it's different than the state
right,
typical guidelines, you know, then at the entrances of those different areas, you know, you'd want to do that. Or if you would choose to change the speed limit from 30 to 25, you know, then you'd want to be fairly consistent in how you convey that information to the public so that it's enforceable and it's consistent.
Yeah, and I think the enforceability is one thing that's behind it too. You can change a sign from 30 to 25. People are still gonna go 30. You know, until they start getting tickets and they realize, okay, they gotta do 25.
well, and that's what we've gone round and round about all of this for so long. Because of that exact reasoning, like the police officer that said, she's like, you can change speed limits, but really the only thing that makes the difference to people is changing the actual structure of the road. And that was voted down pretty soundly. So we were gonna change the structure of a road and then that came back and we changed our minds because of some uproar. So, and some feedback. So I think personally, along with the study, if that's where we went, I also think we should have almost like a survey, a community survey. Like, what would you, I don't know, feedback. Getting people's feedback is never a bad thing. I like feedback. What do the citizens want? You
Well, I
know,
mean, we had the speed sign that there was on the other side when we were doing the traffic for a while where it said it came in at 29.7, yeah, and looking at that. And people paid attention when it was there. But all of a sudden you go a month afterwards, they're back to the same thing again.
right. And that's why it's not an accurate study.
No, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I mean, but that's just noticing what people were doing, you
Yeah.
know? When it was there, they at least made note when lights flashing or whatever else.
And this is a struggle in,
Every-
with doing my research, this is a struggle in every single community. Kind of like park safety and park issues are an issue in every single community. It's a struggle. It's just what we can do to make our citizens, especially in these certain issue areas, like we have seen, you mentioned over in your area, maybe that's the same place. I don't know, but I feel like we do something sooner rather than wait for something terrible to happen.
So two things, one on Second Avenue and the Hill. And this is maybe a question for Sergeant Chambers, or if we put in a 20-mile-an-hour yellow sign, that's just a information. It's not a warning. It's a warning. It's probably not enforceable if somebody's going 30 miles an hour, but it just tells people to.
Could you put in like instead of 20, like a 15? I mean, like slow down. There's a person that is checking their mail right here. Slow down, not
Maybe put all of
I
that on.
mean, I'm just,
Well, 20, I think. So I drive it every single day, multiple times. And so after meeting with Dale, try super, super hard to go 20. 20?
Hill over there.
20s.
Yeah, the hill, 20 is really slow.
Mhm.
And so it feels weird, but it is also incredibly safe going up that hill. I do think 20 is the right speed. Will people go 20? Probably not. Will they go 25? Hopefully, they stop going 30 and 40. I hope to God they stop doing that because it is so dangerous. But it is hard. It's a hard thing to solve.
So, I'll make a motion that we look at placing a 20-mile-an-hour speed sign on either side of that Second Avenue Timberline intersection.
North and south.
It's a yellow one, if it's a white one, black on white,
Second Avenue South.
and replace the slow signs
Okay, to 20.
with that.
Well, okay. And then,
You want the blind driveway sign.
I think that should be up no matter what. Like, I know you talked about,
it's not even just a blind driveway. There's two blind driveways in a blind intersection.
yeah.
And then actually on the other side, there's, it's a complicated area.
That's why I said, maybe that's a stop sign area. If
No,
there's
'cause we
that
would-
big of an issue.
We would slide down, it's such a steep hill.
North side, yeah.
And it would be a disaster for busing and things like that.
One-way traffic's an option too.
How do you know when the other person's coming?
No, you
Maybe
make,
just make it a
you make
one.
Second Avenue one way only. You make it north, never mind, sorry.
Well, I understand. No, I misunderstand what you said. Sorry. Is there a second?
The one-way thing, because there is more than one way out.
20-mile-an-hour.
Yeah.
I think for now, I think that's a really good solution for that area. And while we continue the discussion, can we put the giant flags in them?
Yep.
Thank you. I like the flags.
Second, okay. So we have a motion to replace the slow sign with a 20-mile-an-hour sign on the same posts. With the flag.
Are they gonna be big and yellow?
Signs are white,
Okay. But we'll have the flag.
flags are bright orange, yep.
And that illuminated tape really pops out there too at night too.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Well, I do agree though with Lori that we do have a blind intersection as well.
Blind approach, could you just put like, is there a blind approach or something like that? I mean, it's more than just an
Well, we had
intersection.
We had that sign up, that was up for about 8 years, that sign was up. And then speaking with Dale, conversation started earlier this year, 21. And he said, how about a slow sign? Maybe everyone got used to the blind approach sign. So we tried the slow sign. And if you guys seen Dale's comments, that did work for a while. He did like that. And I think some of the residents like that too. And
So from speaking with Dale, I think he didn't understand that the blind would be removed. I thought thought the slow would be added. And I do agree, because the blind could be further, like as you approach an intersection, a blind intersection ahead, so you want that a little bit further down, and then as you approach that, then the speed limit change with the flags. I think 2 warnings,
So I'll amend my motion that we put back up the blind driveway signs below the speed limit sign. That helps, great.
fingers crossed.
For those. Yeah.
The friendly amendment, okay.
I second that motion, or maybe somebody did. Jim already did.
Any other comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Second thing I'd like to make a motion is that we ask Joe and Stantec or Stantec Planning Services to look at coming back to the council with a proposal for cost of a feasibility study. To look at a citywide study of speeding, or not speeding, speed limits.
Well, yeah,
No, this is
a road study, how, what is the proper term, Joe?
This is the speed limit
Traffic study,
survey.
traffic study.
Yeah, study or traffic.
So this is traffic,
Speed
it's not
limit
speed.
study, is it, I guess, what do you want to accomplish? Is it, you want to look at reducing speed limits in areas across the board, or maybe both? Have some different options. Characterize roadways in terms of what they serve and
I like the characterizing of roadways. Because I think that that would help us develop policies in the future.
The other thing, is there any way we can get a report on accidents that there are?
yes.
That's been there, because that would be historic. And we'll get an idea of what's really in the areas that were going on. So I think that would be important too.
Rochester calls it speed limit evaluation.
Yeah, so traffic studies routinely will pull information from the police department, in your case, the county, and so they keep pretty detailed records of any time that there is an accident, what the property damage was there injuries, that type of thing. And so, in an urban area, you'll see all of that data analyzed routinely. Now, will they have that throughout Orinoco? Maybe, maybe not. They'll have it for Minnesota Avenue. But we can check, if they have it, it would be, sometimes it's telling and sometimes you're surprised by what you find out. And it does paint a picture that, this roadway or this section of road or this intersection needs to be dealt with differently.
Can I do my own study of all the tire tracks I see in the snow this winter from that hill that people miss the road and go to the ditch? Because there was 3 this last snowstorm, 3 different cars.
So I would think that we'd want to characterize
I did it about
roads.
3 years
I think
ago.
that we'd want to look at
Those are my same tracks.
accident records. And I think that we would look at, potential rationale for reducing speed limits across the board or within certain reaches.
So Joe, do you know, can we get ticketing statistics from them to understand how many tickets were handed out on a certain street for speeding?
I
or
don't
do they
know if
keep any of
that's
those records?
georeferenced. They probably have the information about, I don't know, not that I know of, not that I've ever seen in a report before, but
You can always ask.
that's kind of a function of where they police too,
Right,
But
but
that
I,
typically is a indication of where there's problems, right?
right,
That's fair.
see, and that's what I'm thinking. So if there's a lot of tickets on certain streets, there's evidently problems.
So we normally would get 20 hours a week. Is that what we get for?
It's an hour and a half each shift or 3 hours each day.
Brandon, do you have a motion on the table right now?
Yes, is there a second?
I second that motion.
So we'll have Joe come back in January or whenever he has time to come back with a proposal and a cost for doing this feasibility study.
Yep.
Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
The blind intersection, or the blind, is it an intersection or just a? No,
It's a driveway.
it's a driveway, same thing.
It's a driveway that comes out on a 40-mile-an-hour section of Minnesota Avenue. It's on the top of a hill. There's not a lot of visibility. This resident, her kids get picked up by the school bus right at the driveway.
Not the only thing I mean, there are school bus
I forgot.
warning signs ahead or something like that, or
Yeah.
school bus stopping or something like that.
Right, we could definitely put up those signs in both direction. Yep. think the problem is though, it is a hill. I know we talked about Third Street last meeting at the Presbyterian Church. The lay of the land is just, makes it difficult to get out. You do kind of take that chance when you pull out of this driveway and
But they're not backing out. No, it's okay. It's a school bus issue.
well, it's both. It's them pulling out their vehicles, getting onto Minnesota Avenue. Whether they're going north or south, they're concerned.
Can you come here and show me where this is? Or are we talking like, is it,
It's across from Thompson's wholesale.
Yeah, you were in Thompson's door, is Thompson's garage door.
oh, yeah.
Yep, so just a little bit further south. Maybe just across.
Okay, and that has actually, yeah.
So hit your satellite there, you can see the.
Two-story house.
Oh,
Like,
Nope, not the white one. The white one's another property that is on 7th Street.
go further south.
This driveway right here. Yep,
Right next to the auto.
Yeah,
yep. Discount Auto is would be the south driveway, and then this next driveway would be the resident I'm talking
that's
about.
a tricky place and we had issues with that year with the race. That was a dangerous,
The lady,
spot.
yes.
that was a dangerous spot. No, it was a for the 5K. We did the route, we did the route on there one year and that was a tricky spot.
Oh, the 1 year, yes.
Yeah, we changed it after that.
Can this be, I mean, we're gonna do a feasibility study to see how much, we can see what it would cost, I guess. And then if it's something that we're gonna pursue, I feel like we're gonna find more and more and more. So I feel like if we're gonna kind of treat all of these
Yeah.
things that are just being brought to our attention, it's gonna,
So what do you say? Are you saying, I missed the first part of your comment? about signs?
I'm hesitant to make any more action, plans until after we have this report. Because otherwise we're gonna spot treat. It's like, here's one, okay, well now we know about another one, well now, and I think we're gonna have inconsistencies, which
So why don't we
what
do
you were
this? Why don't we
talking about.
contact the sheriff and have them be aware of that speeding of that area on Minnesota Avenue? Or just draw it to their attention. We'll have city staff call Sergeant Chambers and ask them when they're patrolling this, they could just do some speed patrolling on Minnesota Avenue by Thompson's, both directions.
They do, the
We
sheriff's
can move on here.
patrols the River Park in the morning around bus pickup time. So it would be a good time for them to sit here and watch. They do it every day. I see them run down to the park. The sheriff runs down to River Park, like the
Mhm, I
parks,
see 'em, yeah.
every morning. So it'd be a good time for them to also,
Oh, just
it's
park
about
there.
bus pickup, it's pickup time, so.
So we'll have- you don't mind doing that. All right. Parks and Trails. We have our third and final pay request for the dirt pros for the finishing of Zumbro River restoration flood repair. So it's the last FEMA project. We'll have a big party. I don't know, Joe, you ready for a party or pizza or something or?
Absolutely, especially with this one.
I make a motion, we approve the third and final pay request for dirt pros.
Second.
Any other comments? Dana, you second it? Yeah. Gus, okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I saw that one.
I,
Next item is a arborist quote for removing the 7 ash trees in the center island at Orville Park, all the wood and brush, drain stumps, and Public Works will take care of the cleanup and adding dirt.
Making a motion, we approve the arborist quote.
I'll make a friendly amendment that let's pay, we're coming at the end of the year and we have some funds left in our tree removal, so I would I'd amend your motion to pay 4,000 or 4,500. 4,500 towards the quote of 5775 and the balance in 2022.
Second.
You'll accept that, all right?
You accept that? Yes, sorry. Yes, I was writing.
Amendment,
I do accept.
4,500 this year, the balance 1,275 next year. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's approved. Public Works Assistant. Briefly comment.
Yeah, just real quick, this is a brief job description for a new employee starting April. It's been budgeted, it's been approved. If you guys got any comments on it, we can adjust, change this, but my timeline is to publish this beginning of February. Publish it for a month, hold interviews the first 2 weeks in March, and then have a recommendation at the March City Council meeting, March 15th. And then employment would begin hopefully the first week, April 4th, 2022. That's my timeline.
I would just add a Friday after the 7 to 12 on the core hours.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Got it.
It's
I'm sorry,
exciting.
what was that?
Monday through
Just-
Thursday, Monday through
They
Friday.
just left off Friday, 7 to 12.
Oh. Good catch.
Thought this was barbecue at first. I was like, we're paying
I'll
him and.
proofread it before we publish it.
I don't know if do we need a motion?
I don't think so. I just wanted to give you guys a timeline of where we're at. So come February, we will publish it. March, we'll have a recommendation.
Okay.
April, we'll start employment. Thank you.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Orinoco donations. Keeping a little more operational budgets for going into 2022, so we are the donations from the Gold Rush is $8,350, and that spreadsheet that you have in your packet. The recommendation of the Gold Rush Committee, so I make a motion that we approve the Gold Rush donations. Recommendations. Jim, okay. That sure hopefully be better, but this is a little dip in our donations. So the challenges will be 4th of July, as well as the National Night Out. And in the past, we've had 7250, so we either need to give some serious consideration to fundraising, either by donation buckets. City staff has done a terrific job of getting donations from businesses. And most likely we'll have to do that again, and maybe we may not have the same, I don't know what your final was last year for donations, but we may not be able to do as much as we did last year, but.
I don't remember. I know there's only like 800 and some dollars in that.
What is it? So that's just an FYI, so. Any other comments? No, all those signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye. It's approved. Outstanding Citizen Award, I got a quick page here. I believe it's in your packet from the Outstanding Citizens Award of Bo, Skyler, and myself, council representative, who replaced Trish. So we have 3 candidates. And for essence of time, I would like to Make a motion that we recommend candidate A and candidate B together as the outstanding citizens award for 2021.
I second wholeheartedly, and I also would like to hope that candidate C is considered next year.
Do we know who these are?
You're not supposed to. I know, I mean, I know who they are by reading
They
it.
give us the candidates and then they make arrangements for the January meeting. That's when we give the award. There's a plaque on the hallway as you walk out of different names. In memory of a gentleman who was a antique store owner and Gordon. I can't pronounce the last name. Go ahead.
These are all great choices and it makes my heart happy seeing all these people on here.
I'm sorry.
These are great choices and it makes my
Yes.
heart happy to see all these
Yeah.
names, not names, but.
And we have used
People on here.
runner-ups in the past, so I think that's
Mhm.
all right. Was there a second to the motion?
Second,
Dana? Okay. Dina? All in favor, signify by saying aye of candidates A and B together.
I,
Aye.
Thank you. We'll be at the January meeting. It's the Flannery and Hood 2022 rate. Make a motion we approve Flannery and Hood City of Orinoco Legal Services fees for 2022. Any comments, Mike?
No, you don't need to approve the rates. They're just a notice form for you. It's in your contract that we automatically send you a rate schedule every year. So there's no vote needed.
perfect. Yeah.
All right. Any other comments? If not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Animal Control Authority. That's other than the sheriff.
I wasn't here, but it was something about somebody.
I know I emailed them I emailed them and I don't remember.
Ordinance says police or sheriff, but
Why are you looking at me like I'm the one that should do it?
just going for past memory of how it came about.
It had something to do with the dog bite from the last meeting.
And they put the.
Well, that's handled by ordinances.
Yeah, and then there was something about somebody was supposed to be the animal control authority, but I'm not sure. We can
Let's table it to next
table
month.
it. Okay,
Come back with
perfect.
yay or nay, or
Good idea.
make a motion, we table it to January.
Second.
Smith and Schaefer, there's a work quote and an audit quote. Work quote is just a continuing of the hourly rate for staff and supervisor. Somebody want to make a motion?
I would like to move to approve both Smith and Schaefer work quote and audit quote.
Good. Jim seconds it. I think they're doing a great job working with Lori and, working with Geraldine. So, they struggled for a couple months, but they've recovered from some personnel issues, but that's fine. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I
Aye. We have Jim and Geraldine that would like to cash out 40 hours and 30 hours respectively of PTO time. I make a motion, we approve both Jim's PTO hours of 40 hours and Geraldine's request for 30 hours of PTO time. Seconds it. Any questions?
So Are they on a use it or lose it basis with their PTO? Just out of curiosity.
No, it's not losing it. It's just a matter of trying to keep it to lower. They're getting up to the 200-300 hours of PTO time and there's.
It's
It accrues and so they just, it's just another way of kind of keeping it under control. So, yeah, I cash in my PTO every month. So. All right, next item is tobacco license.
I don't
We have,
think we
We never
voted.
voted.
all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry. Very good. Silly. Okay, we just have Casey's motion for a cigarette license. Is
No,
that the table?
yeah, there's another one for gas, no. I have it right away somewhere. Might have been in the other packet.
Do you have two licenses in yours?
There was a separate.
There was a separate packet, but I kind of got everything mixed up.
Oh, you have both?
Yeah,
Different.
there's a lot of stuff that came in later. Didn't deal with.
Thank you.
I saw it somewhere, but
These are the license applications for cigarettes for both Casey's and Gas and Go. I think it's a $50 permit. I make a motion, we approve both Casey's and Gas and Go's tobacco license.
Second.
Jim, seconds it. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye. Each
Can I say one
business.
thing?
Yes.
We will need to update our ordinance for tobacco. The law changed a couple years ago to it has to be 21 to buy cigarettes and ours still says.
Oh my God.
So I noticed that when I was going through, so just an
Thank you.
FYI, that will be coming in.
thank
January.
you.
Mhm.
So we need work with Mike on January.
Yep. Yep. So I just want to give you a little heads up.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. All right, Stantec Professional Services. Planning Services Agreement. CETA came back with a very upfront comment that we're just really not really in a position and asked to withdraw from consideration. So we appreciate their frankness there. So any comments for you, Joe, regarding planning services? We talked about before and
No, our
are pretty straightforward, I think.
team's got a lot of experience, and certainly can city in a number of different ways there.
So is this time and just time and materials, the way it's built out?
Yeah, as needed. So you ask, we do it and we get billed on an hourly basis.
I make a motion, we approve Stantec's professional planning services for 2022.
Second,
I really think it's going to be a good ad for us. Position where we're at and we may get some work right away. Any other comments? No? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye. It's approved. Fee schedule. So there's a lot in this fee schedule proposal. Updating fees, grading permits, water rates, tiered rates, that type of thing. And in your packet, there's some verbiage of what city staff had put together about considering. And I think it requires a little more. I think there's some good ads to change our fee rates, especially in the area of the grading permits and the water charges. And at the same time, I think it's important that we look at the water rate increase for our water rates. And so in one way for tonight, in essence of time and where we're at, I'd like to consider just approaching the water fee increase and come back at the January meeting with detailed approach with updating a spreadsheet with what we would consider proposing rather than having a verbal discussion about how we should update it.
There are a few things that maybe we could just address, like questions. Maybe you've already addressed them, like the water meter ordering. Can we just address
The water
that?
rate,
The water meter ordering. Have those been ordered? Are we ordering more? What's our plan? I think those could be. Kane can probably.
I remember reading that. Kane, you want to speak about water meters, please?
Yeah, when we need water meters, we'll order a bunch and have them on hand. I think,
I know you and I talked, all we have right now is what's in the other room. We don't have a lot. So as this project starts going on and more people hook up, we don't have a lot of extra meters sitting around. So it's something that we're gonna have to think about. When do we want to order more of these?
Is that included in the project, Joe, or no?
No, but there, you know, there really won't be water availability. Probably,
Another year.
well, maybe late this summer for select areas, but mostly next year.
Is it Badger is the meter?
Yep.
I at least ask him if there's how much it would cost now to buy them versus because we're looking at least 110.
Yeah, something like that, 120.
120. They just want to try to start feeling out for a quote, and if they can give us some heads up if there's going to be an increase, we can order them earlier. It's going to be,
Okay. I can have a quote for January.
let's do that. Okay.
I'll get an exact number from Joe.
Just one comment about the grading permit. It's city staff has done some work and it's in your packet about depending on the size of the project, how much dirt they're moving. And Joe would, I think, is agreeing to having some type of tiered. I don't know what the numbers are for a tiered amount, but that's something we should consider coming back and. So if I could just make a quick comment about the water rates, and this was a page. Printed it out as I was leaving, well, before I left. Not quite that good. This is from our 2020 audit, and it shows our water rates and how close we run our staying above the line. In 2020, we had so it's our water utility fund, shows revenues, which is the blue if you look at 2020, and the depreciation and our expenses. And our expenses are pretty flat, around 100,000. But it did provide a net loss of $5,900, almost $6,000. Of course, we don't know where our 2021 will be, but as Mike Babani and has indicated to us, as well as our auditors, we need to make sure we demonstrate to PFA that we are. They want to be reassured that we're in a position to pay our loan back and everything. So I think that's why in the past we've always done. And it's worked out pretty good. It's it could be more, but I think giving our income residents and for the downtown users, for everybody in general, but a 3% I think is kind of a nominal increase, but it keeps us above, very close to our 0 mark. So that's good. It's not meant to be a profit, but at the same time, we don't want to lose. We want to demonstrate to PFA that we can handle it, charging the right amount of rates and everything. So, do you have any other comments, Kane?
Yeah, the one comment I'd make is breaking up residential and commercial rates. So Casey's, Gas and Go, commercial accounts, right? It's charge, say, 10% more for the same usage. Have your same tiers, right? 0 to 5,000, 5 to 20. But then just charge those commercial users who are making coffee and have bathrooms and are selling our water, you know, charge them another 10%. I don't know what that number should be. I'm just throwing 10% out. But that's an option to gain some.
You may want to, when you say commercial, you may want to say a CUP and commercial. Because we have some people that, a photography business
Okay, yeah,
has a CUP, but they use a tremendous amount of water
they do.
at their house.
They do.
And we need to charge accordingly.
Yes.
Do we know what other cities, you know, like a percentage difference from residential versus?
Versus commercial. Kind of goes back to when we compare ourselves to Rochester, you know, it's hard to compare ourselves to Rochester. We gotta compare ourselves to
Or something like.
even,
There's Rhoda.
yeah, Dover, Yoda, you know, some smaller towns.
Let's put that on our to-do list when we come back in January.
Yeah.
Looking at, I like the idea and it makes sense. Open that bathroom at Casey's every 15 minutes and.
Washing their hands each time.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we increase the base rate from $18.28 to $18.83. We don't change the ranges number, we just change the base rate,
Change it to 18, what did you say?
$18.83. That's 55 cents increase per, that's the base rate. And the dollar range still stay under 5,000, $3.16 and so forth. Those don't change. Well, they could change. They will change.
They will.
We're just talking about the facility base charge is changing 3%.
And is this something that changes? Have you changed it? You've never changed it. We've never changed it.
We have, yeah, usually it's 3% every year.
Oh, it is. Okay. That's what I said.
You get a second?
No. Second, Jim. Just make sure we say it's a 3% increase for the flat facility base charge. I'll make sure. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Right.
Aye. I would make a motion that we table items B and C for the January meeting. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approved. We make a motion for a consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Lori? Okay. I'll second it. All those in favor, signify by saying aye to approve the consent agenda.
Aye.
And a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Jane, Jim, okay. 8:15. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Welcome, Jim.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
say, I hate, can we not print these out again?
No, not at
You know
all.
what I mean?
Right here.
Just all the stuff that we're not going over,
Tell you what,
grading stuff.
I can move.
Wasn't it a lot of stuff?
Sorry,
Maybe it
Joe.
wasn't. No, it wasn't. Never mind. There's just different pages.
It's just showing how different people do it, because I don't know.
Glasses on, glasses off.
What TV you guys wanna do?
No, that's fine. I was thinking, for whatever, when I read it in my
So which
email,
printer is this gonna be?
you know how when you're going through your email, it seems longer.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't want it to, never mind. I was gonna say, I don't want to have to print everything again.
Thanks. Pleasure meeting you too.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe, I
Yeah,
have
thank you.
to talk to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, what did I do?
Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
I know.
Garage.
They're both SK and
YLAR.
AR.
There we go.
This is one. Next.
It's that tree that blew down over Minnesota Avenue. I think we both, it happened. Was it the one?
I don't know if the guy was very reputable. He was driving around at 1 o'clock in the morning on the windiest day of the year.
And
Come on,
how do you,
how do you drive over a tree?
I had so many questions.
I think he drove around it, hit like the limbs, the small limbs.
Sirens and flashing lights right over here.
That guy was just out there.
Just a train.
Like, wow.
Yeah, it seemed like a strange
I'd like to
situation.
get a certificate, some of that stuff.
I'm glad we were prepared because nothing happened, right? Like, prepare and nothing happened.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it did, we had no power for a
Yeah.
while, but.
But we prepared for it, you know, we filled our reservoir early on in the day and that's.
I called Rylan,
Tells you.
because my sister is a giant weather person, she's like, oh my God, she's like, yep, and I'm like, and then someone else
Yeah,
was
this is the
calling.
one that we saw with the water and sewer project.
I'm like, I think the generators, let me double check.
Sure.
Rylan, I'm like, I've never had.
Well, there's a
such
cave there once in a while.
Prepare for this, or yeah, what do you do?
Oh, no. Scarier in summer, we're like, okay, yeah, it's a storm, whatever, we have no power, whatever.
Right.
And then if you think about winter and I'm